Okay, welcome back. We have our newest podcast today, and I'm so glad to introduce our guest. We have Kelli McGroarty. Kelli, you want to say hello?
Hello.
I'm so glad that you decided to, be a guest. What high school do you attend?
Eastern Regional.
Eastern, and you are a senior. Is that
Yep.
correct? Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to have you, and I was really surprised to find out that you were a three-sport athlete. I knew about soccer, and of course, I knew about basketball because I watched you play against my daughter, and I was very, very surprised, but really impressed the fact that you play three sports. So we'll get into your interview, and you can tell everybody all about yourself, and we'll learn a little bit more about you and your future. So, where were you
I
born?
was born in Washington Township in New Jersey.
Okay, and how old
I'm
are you?
18, turning 19 on
Okay.
July 12th.
Oh, well, happy birthday soon,
Yeah.
coming up. And you go to Eastern, and you are a senior. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your family. So I think you have a really cool family story that maybe everybody can learn a little bit more about you. So tell us about your parents.
Both my parents were All-Americans in college for soccer, so it's kind of a legacy to try to build up to and earn. And then my little brother, he does track and soccer right now, and then he used to do a few other sports.
Okay. So who do you take most after? Do you take after your mom or
My
your
dad,
dad?
by far.
So what position did your
He
dad
was a
play?
forward. Yeah.
So did he coach you to be a forward, or you just gravitate to that position?
My brother gravitated towards defense like my mom and like her style of play, and then I was like my dad, kind of just a gritty like person that headed the ball a lot up top.
That's pretty cool. So did you always? It says you were born in Washington Township. Did you always live in Washington Township, or where did you live
I
growing
lived
up?
in Mocha Hill for a few years when I was younger, and then I moved to West Defford for a couple of years into my granny's house, and then I came to Voorhees in third grade, and I've been here since.
That's great. So we'll talk about maybe some of the other sports that you play. So I know soccer is your main sport, and we'll get into that later in the interview. But what other sports do
I
you
played
play?
basketball and lacrosse.
Okay. So basketball is where I know you're from. So maybe we can start with basketball. So what were your earliest memories about basketball?
I know I actually did gymnastics for a year, but I quit to play basketball. My earliest memories are probably JKNBA and then travel basketball. I played with my age group instead of my grade, but then I decided to go and play with my grade, and it was by far one of the like greatest times of my life playing travel basketball with them.
That's pretty cool. And did you always play point guard growing up?
Yeah, pretty much because I was really tiny, so I was definitely not a post player. Um, my shot wasn't the best, so I also had really good like vision and then my passing ability, and I was just really quick. So they kind of gave me the ball and told me to run point.
That's great. So how about lacrosse? What made you get started with lacrosse? What do you remember about lacrosse?
I played a little bit when I was younger, and then I like stopped for a few years. But then I decided I was going to do it in high school, so I picked it back up in eighth grade. And I'd always been midfield because I could run forever, pretty much. Unfortunately, I don't feel like it's like that anymore, but I can run forever. And then um, I came in freshman year, and I wasn't that like skilled, but I was just a gritty athlete that like got all the ground balls and redefended. So I earned my playing time because I didn't play much at the beginning, but then I was starting by like playoffs and mid-season. So I played attack, but then at the very end of the season, I was the last one to find out that after our varsity goalie Cooper Cowden had graduated, our JV and backup goalie were moving to California because they were sisters, and they didn't want to make the commute, which makes sense. But so they actually, my captain told the coach that I would do goalie next year, and I was the last to find out that I would do it. But of course, I would step in and do it if they needed a goalie, and so I was goalie for my sophomore and junior year, and I would have been goalie for my senior year, but Corona said no.
Now, did you ever play goalie before that?
Well, when our captain Britt had told our coach, it's because when I was at a township game, we were on the sideline and I was telling her how I used to play goalie, but she didn't understand that when I said I used to play goalie, it was for one season when I was like 8, and it was every other game for half a game. So.
So it looks like you got roped into a position, but it turned out to be, something that you probably enjoyed and had a good time.
Absolutely, because I just wanted to play when I was little, mostly because it was a cool position. You got to put on cool gear, and I always wanted to play it, but they always told me I was too fast to be in net. But I absolutely love goalie so much.
Now, are there any similarities between soccer and lacrosse at all?
There's similarities between all three sports, which is why it helps to do three sports. Like for soccer, when I was in net for lacrosse, like I do a lot of kick saves, and I tend to use my body more than my stick. But that like came from soccer. And then for basketball, for all my sports, the defensive stance by far helps in like angles. And then also being a point guard, you got to keep a calm head when someone's trying to steal the ball in your face, and you got to get people in the right position. So that helps. And then lacrosse, you're getting pegged at with really hard, tiny balls at fast pace from like 2 feet away. So you have to be able to not blink and step into the ball to stop it. So that also helped with my toughness for all the other sports.
Wow. Well, let's get a little bit into soccer, then we can just jump back and forth and go from there. So tell us about maybe your earliest soccer memories.
My earliest soccer memories, that will be a very long time ago. My first memory, I wasn't even born yet. I'm pretty sure I was born because of a soccer ball hitting my mom's stomach, so I was born early. But my first memories were probably just dribbling around the backyard with a soccer ball and then playing like rec soccer with a giant sweatband on that didn't fit my face and just shiny little uniforms. That's pretty much my first memory.
Well, what made you stick with soccer? What made you like enjoy it the most? What did you enjoy the most about soccer?
There's nothing really that made me not want to keep playing because like obviously I love the sport and the competition. And like just being able to be on the field was so much fun that like I never wanted to really stop. So like it never gave me a reason to quit. So I guess that was pretty much the main reason I kept playing it. But then when I got to high school especially, the game just consumed everything, and I wanted to pursue soccer as far as I can, and I still do. And I just fell in love with the game so much.
That's awesome. Well, let's go a little bit further and let's talk about basketball. So what do you enjoy about the game of basketball the most?
My favorite thing, besides like the high intensity, is that you could change a game in a matter of seconds. Because like in soccer, if you're down a goal, it might take you 20 minutes to score another one. But in basketball, if you're down by 10 points and someone hits 3 threes after stealing the ball 3 times, then you're right back in it. And I think that's like the coolest part about basketball is that you can change the momentum of a game by getting a steal or anything, and just it changes with like the snap of your fingers.
Yeah, it's definitely fast paced. It can be high scoring. You're always involved in the play, which is fantastic. Being a point guard, you're in control. You're the floor general, so you're basically controlling the offense and you're leading the defense. So you're pretty good with your leadership there. How about the game of lacrosse? Like, what do you enjoy the most about that?
That is a good question. With lacrosse, when I play, I still don't even know the rules, so I couldn't really argue with the ref if they call it an 8-meter. But with lacrosse, I love because it's the only game or sport that I don't play like an offensive role necessarily, like soccer and basketball, like the point guard, and then obviously soccer, the forward. But lacrosse, I can save the day. Like, I remember a few times when Cherokee was coming down the floor or court. Well, wait, no, field, wrong sport. When they were coming down the field, there were only like a few seconds left, and we were going to win the conference for the first time, and I stopped it. And just being able to save the day and like change everything and being able to get the ball going back down the field is such a great feeling. And that's probably my favorite part, is that like I can save the day essentially.
That's pretty awesome. So what word would you use to describe yourself and why?
I would probably use the word gritty. Just because like a gritty person is someone that doesn't give up. They overcome all the obstacles. Like if they're not the most talented person, then they'll find a way to beat someone by either working hard, running through balls, just doing everything to the best of their ability. And they hate losing more than they like winning. And they're just overall just a very tough person. And they make and they prepare for the game more. So I just feel like I'm a gritty person just because I feel like I do all those things and I just don't give up.
Well, I mean, you're definitely high energy to do 3 sports for, I mean, pretty much all 4 years. I mean, this year would have been lacrosse for the 4th year. That's just totally amazing. How are you able to balance your time? I mean, because I'm sure there's got to be overlaps and practices and games and training for each one of the sports, and they're probably pulling you in different directions. How are you able to balance that for
It's
your high
definitely
school
gotten
career?
easier because I remember freshman year, I was going from lacrosse straight to basketball, straight to soccer, getting home and starting my homework. And I was taking harder courses my freshman year. So I was definitely struggling a lot. But then throughout experience, I was able to figure out that I would stay in at lunch and I would do all my homework like in a teacher's room so that when I was finally done practice, I would have free time. And then if I had to go to my second sport, then I'd be able to do that without worrying. The hardest part was when I had like a test or something to study for because you can't really judge the time that you have to do that. It's just when you know what you know. So it's kind of just like practice. You get used to what you have to do.
I mean, it's definitely going to prepare you for college. I mean, time management seems to be the common theme amongst the ladies that I've talked to. It's trying to balance the requirements of the teacher, their sport, their coaches, their friends. I mean, that's the hardest part. I mean, you only have so many hours in the day, and you have goals that you want to accomplish and things you want to get done. So you got to make you have to make priorities, and I think you did a pretty nice job prioritizing your time and really parlaying that into a successful, career and also going forward. So how about let's talk about some of your accolades, some of your achievements. You're going to have, I guess, from 3 sports. So soccer's your main one. So why don't we start with soccer? So can you tell us about some of the, achievements that you've, been recognized for?
Some of the bigger ones would probably be I was a 3-time regional All-American and 2-time All-American, and that was something I really wanted because my parents got that, and their plaques are always on the wall, so that's something I always wanted to be able to do. Um, I got NewJersey.com Player of the Year last year. I got Gatorade Player of the Year last year, which was pretty awesome. I was the first person in South Jersey girls soccer history to get it, and the first person in my school, which is I think pretty impressive considering we've had Olympians come out of my school and pro athletes. So I think those were the bigger ones.
Okay. Well, what about basketball?
Basketball, I was invited to play for the senior all-star game, which got canceled. I made all conference, and I think I got like third team all South Jersey or something like that. But
Okay. And then you obviously you missed out. I mean, you even mentioned 1,000-point score. I mean, that's pretty
Yep.
exciting. How about lacrosse?
For lacrosse, I had gotten all conference again, and I think I don't remember which team I got, but I got all South Jersey, and I was so close to getting my 300 saves or hopefully 400. I was only 40 away, so it's a little disappointed about not being able to get that mile marker.
The one thing I really am noticing just from talking to you right now, it's how I want to say modest because you kind of like downplay the awards. I mean, these are prime time awards that you're getting recognized for and you're earning and achieving. And I think that if I didn't ask you about them, you wouldn't even mention them. And I find that to be, really awesome. I really respect that because it seems like to me you're playing for the love of the sport and you're playing because you want to put your best effort forward. And if you get recognized, you get recognized. And I think that's a really good lesson for people to be able to learn. I mean, because those are great things to have, all these achievements and accomplishments. But I think it's nice to have a great reputation and be able to be proud of yourself for all that you've done. Now, I have a question to ask you. Was there ever any pressure on you to perform at a high level or to earn certain accolades or awards because, your parents did
Not
it?
necessarily from anyone else. I'm definitely my own worst enemy. I set unbelievably high standards for myself, and when I don't achieve them, it's never a good thing for myself. But I think just them having been such successful and great athletes in their own time that I want to live up to that. but they don't ever put any pressure on me to be it. But they definitely expect the best from me and my effort. And basically, they just want me to be the best person and player that I can be. And I just make sure that for myself, because I want to be the best, that's something I'm going to work for.
Okay. So I think we're going to switch over and we're going to talk about soccer. I know that's your main sport. Primarily I do girls basketball, South Jersey girls basketball interviews and podcasts, but I'm really, really excited to, learn more about, the soccer aspect of your career. Now, I have to be honest with you, and I mentioned this to you earlier, my friend Nick Lowe, who's from the Shore, he actually sent me these questions. So I know he's going to be really excited to listen. He actually told me he can't wait. But I want to ask you some questions about soccer, and then we'll go back into basketball later. So what did it mean to you being selected to the All-American game? So talk about the game, the experience, and
I think
being
it was
nominated.
pretty awesome. The cool thing was we had a lot of New Jersey girls there, which just shows how dominant New Jersey is in soccer. What made it probably even more special was that I got to go with one of my best friends from my team and my dad as the coach, which I bet probably hasn't happened too many times. So that was also the last time my dad will ever coach me in a sport. So it was just a very meaningful game. And then Sarah got, I believe, player of the game. And it just shows that basically everything we've worked hard for, it kind of comes back to us in like good karma. So it was just a great feeling to be able to play with one of my good friends and under my dad's wing again one last time, and to get the W too. We won, which is the first time in I think over a decade that East has won. It was
Now,
played in
where was the
Florida.
game played? And so do people come from all over
It's
the
East
United
versus
States to play this
West.
game?
So like girls from my team were from everywhere on the East Coast, and we were playing people from like California and places over there. So a lot of people had really far drives or flights.
So did you ever feel overwhelmed in like the magnitude of the game, or did you just take it as
I
like a regular
give a
game?
lot of credit to my dad and his assistant coach, because being invited to that high level of a game, we already know that we're going to be very talented. So we weren't really doing drills. Instead, we were doing we started off with like a name game to memorize everyone's names, and we got the chemistry up. And not only did that help us like succeed because we all like knew each other, but it took a lot of the pressure off because it just showed that like everyone else here is human. And that's what I had to keep reminding myself so I wouldn't get nervous that bro and I, we earned our spot here and we'll be fine, and we're playing against other people in the same position. So I give a lot of credit to the coaches for helping us get to know each other more, to take the pressure off and to gain chemistry for the game. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I'm going to talk about your dad in a little bit because I think that's a great, question to ask you about, what your dad, his influence on you. But, you mentioned the fact that there was a lot of New Jersey girls. So how many girls do you think there were on the team from New Jersey?
I'm going to guess around 8. I had one player that I know personally. She played for East. She was there. And then obviously Bro. And then there was one girl, or maybe a few, that were going to college with Sarah.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So, you mentioned this Gatorade Player of the Year. It sounds like, to me, I don't know much about it, but it sounds like a very prestigious award. Why don't you talk about that? And what is the Gatorade Player of the Year?
Gatorade has, for every sport, they pick a female and male athlete, and then they get the award, and then they'll pick one for the national. But I got the New Jersey player for the girls soccer, and I was the only one that won in my school and the only girls soccer player in South Jersey to get it.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So what did it mean to you earning that award as a junior?
It all just kind of comes back to how my team played. We had such an unbelievable year, and I know that if I hadn't been surrounded by such talented people and such an intelligent coach, that we probably wouldn't have been able to win states. And if we hadn't won states, then I probably wouldn't have been given it. So it just kind of comes back to everyone playing their part and doing it to such doing a great job at their part that I was able to get it. So I think it kind of just comes back to pretty much everyone being able to help.
The more and more I talk to you, and I remember I asked you what word you would use to describe yourself. I mean, gritty is fantastic in that you chose that, but I'm thinking humble, and I'm thinking unselfish. Those are two words that are like popping up in my head because you're recognizing your teammates and you're realizing that it's just not you, and you're successful because of your teammates and your coaches and everybody working together and everybody buying in to the same goal. And this is like fantastic. I think you're going to be
Thank you.
awesome in college. I can't wait. This is fantastic. So, what was it like playing for your
I
father
would
in high
love to
school?
do it again. It was by far the greatest experiences I've ever had. Obviously, it had its ups and downs. Some of the downs were probably like people said I never earned anything, or that I was only playing because my dad was the coach and that was the only reason I was on the field. Um, that was more so freshman year and like sophomore year, but I still heard a few of them this year. So there was that. There were other problems between like leadership because I always was trying to fill that leadership role, and it was like a fine line between being annoying coach's daughter and an actual leader trying to motivate the team. So those were just some of the downs. And obviously my dad could never celebrate any of my accomplishments because he was the coach and he had to be fair between everyone. But him being my coach was unbelievable because of all the lessons and stories I've got to have, and just being able to understand everything that's behind the scenes. Like my dad being a great player, he was able to teach me or tell me stories of his leaderships and stories of in college that I always took in very deeply. And I remember doing certain things and I remember thinking my dad did that and I'm one step closer. And then even with well, I said leadership, so that was that. But then basically, like him being able to train and the understanding of what happens, like behind the scenes. Like I got to see my dad, like always setting up the fields and the nets and how much work they put in. And then the biggest thing probably that he ever taught me was when he would have an idea and we'd have to execute it. And then as a leader or captain, we had to follow through with it, even if we didn't disagree. And a lot of the times I was always curious as to why he made that decision because I didn't agree with it. But then his reasoning made me realize that he was right and he was almost always right. So just being able to follow your captain into battle, even if you're probably going to lose, but understand that there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Did you ever come up like when you were growing up, feel like, oh, I'm always, you know, uh, you know, under his shadow. I mean, I think that's a lot because I know for me, a lot of times they always say to my daughters or my kids, "Oh, you're Mike's kids. You're Mike's kids. You're Mike's kids." And for me, one of the coolest things was when I started, going to Gabby's games and on Sophia's games. Now I was Gabby's dad or Sophia's dad. I mean, that made me really feel special. I mean, I know it's hard because you have like a big reputation and like a big shoes to fill with your parents both being all Americans, and growing up, you're probably their child. I mean, did you ever get to the point where now they were
Yeah,
like
that
your
was one of my
parents?
biggest goals coming in. First off, I just obviously wanted to make varsity, but then I obviously wanted to make a name for myself because everyone knew my dad, and my dad was the reason I was getting these things, and my dad was the reason I was achieving these things. But I wanted to prove that it was me doing it. Like, obviously, he was one of the biggest factors as to why I've been so successful, but I just wanted people to know that, like, I'm another person, that he is the coach and I am a player, and that we are two different people. And that was one of the best parts about junior year is I feel like I established my name as my own person and not as the coach's daughter or little McGee's daughter. I was Kelli McGroarty.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I think you're very insightful and you're very, wise beyond your years. I mean, trying to make a name for yourself is like, I mean, to me, I think that's the best thing. If you can do that and learn that lesson as a young lady, I mean, I think it sets you up for future success. So I really commend you on that. So let's talk about the season a little bit. And I know you made it to the playoffs. So your team was very successful. Talk about the team a
This
little
was
bit
by
and what kind
far
of year you
my
had this year.
favorite year of all the years. Um, Obviously, last year was such a great year because of our accomplishments, But the team this year, we had absolutely no drama, and everyone was just like so happy for each other's success, like achievements. Like on the bench, when like our seniors didn't necessarily play, they were cheering their butts off for everyone, and we all got really close during the summer because I wanted to make sure that we had good chemistry coming in, and it was just a great atmosphere the entire time.
Now, I know that your team was very, very successful this season, and it was funny because before I got a chance to know you, I would go on Twitter and I was kind of curious, so I would see like scores, and I want to say it was against Shawnee, and I could be wrong, that you guys were like down by a couple goals, and when I went back on Twitter, you guys I think won the game. Is that true or no?
For
Am I
Shawnee, I know
remembering
we beat them
properly?
4-0 the first time, but then when we played them home, we were winning 3-0, and then they scored two late goals on us. But then during the coaches tournament, I believe they were up by one, and then we came back, and I think we either scored two or three. So that was the only game I remember coming back.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, the fact you guys were resilient and came back. I really would like to hear about this 100 and Central in the States this year because I feel like, you know, there was a lot of controversy around the game. Can you share a little bit about what was going on and what was happening?
Yeah, that was a sad day. When we
What was going on with the game
So
beforehand?
we
Didn't it
always
change
play at a
locations and
neutral
things like that?
site at a later time, and we always play at Rowan, I believe, and I'm pretty sure that was where it was supposed to be played again. But the day before we were practicing, we found out that it was being moved to their field, and it was kind of something we were like, oh well, that's not fair, but okay, we have to start preparing for it anyway. So they
That's
said the
crazy. Why
weather
did it get
was too
moved?
bad, but I don't know. I guess.
Well, let's talk about the game itself. Like, what were you guys thinking going into the game? What were your thoughts? What was the mood? What was
It
everybody's
was definitely
emotions?
different, but I wouldn't say it was like horrible. Knowing that we were going to be playing against so many odds, our leaders were making sure that we were all motivated and we knew, and like just being competitive athletes, we were always saying like we have to overcome this because we don't make excuses. Like our team doesn't make excuses. So we knew we had to come out and just play like our Eastern game, and we weren't necessarily worried about them. We were just worried about ourselves.
Wow. So, talk about what happened during the game. What were um, how did the game go? I mean, how did you start out? How
We
did you
had dealt with
finish?
bus legs, so it's like a thing that like when you're on a bus for too long and you're sitting, you're not really active. So that definitely played a part. So then when we got there after driving for like an hour and 45 minutes, we had gotten off the bus and then we were put into we were separated because we had people waiting in line to go bathroom and other people in another room. So it was not a good start. And when we started the game, we were really slow and we were kind of running all over the place and not like playing our game. The second half came, we were already down a goal, but that's when we started really playing the way we play. But we were just not able to get the ball in the net.
How do you feel knowing that was your last game
Not
for
good.
your high school career as far as your team?
A lot of regret. Like they scored off a corner, and my job is to clear out every corner. And I've won 99% of them except that one. I'd followed the ball back, and I thought it was going over, but it hit the crossbar, and it went to exactly where I normally stand, and she headed it in, and it crossed the line by like the ball fully crossed by like an inch, and knowing we were an inch short, and I read it wrong, it sucks.
Well, I guess, the fact that you play so many sports, you don't have time to dwell on the negative, because I'm sure like as soon as soccer was over, boom, the next day you're getting ready, you're probably, switch right to
Yeah, that
basketball mode.
happens
So you didn't
every
have
year
much time
though.
to mope around.
Last year, or for my junior year, the day we had won states, the next day was basketball tryouts, but I took 2 days off.
Wow. Wow. Well, what was your most memorable soccer moment for your
My
high school
dad
career?
wants to argue with me that it's our state championship game because it was 3:55 left to go, and I had scored the tying goal. Riley Tiernan had this amazing turn and shot, but hit the crossbar, and I followed up the shot, and the defender didn't, and I headed it in. And that goal saved us from overtime and PKs, and you don't know whatever happens in overtime PKs because we might have lost. So that was like a save the day kind of moment. And it was also, I beat Amir Ali's season goal record, which everyone, including my dad, thought would never be touched. So that was just like all these accomplishments came in at once, and then we were able to hold off. And then to run in and grab the trophy was awesome.
So
It
what
was
was the
36
record?
and I
What
got
was the previous
37.
record?
But my favorite memory was probably the South Jersey game against Shawnee last year, because we had scored and then they scored twice. And their second goal was in the last 10 minutes. And for those 10 minutes, or not fully 10 minutes, but after they had scored, you could just like that feeling that we had lost. Like we knew we had lost, but when you looked around and just deep inside everyone, we were never going to give up, and we just kept fighting. And then I scored the tying goal, I believe under 5 minutes, but above 3. And I didn't even see it go in. I was the last because I was blocked. But that emotion change was by far the best feeling, which is why I think it was better than the state championship goal, because we went from feeling that our season was over and all our hard work was done and that there's no more state championships in mind, and then to suddenly switch. And then as soon as that goal went in, we were like, we're going to win. And I feel like everyone knew that and everyone went crazy. But that was by far my favorite moment.
That's pretty awesome. I'm going to ask you another question, and I kind of want to switch over to basketball for a little bit, if you don't mind. So, what does it mean being such an elite soccer player and being able to play, basketball at a high level, score 1,000 points, and be a really
I guess
awesome
that means I
goalie in
got really
lacrosse
good
too? What does that
genes.
mean for you?
I don't know. I just think that my parents had the biggest influence on me playing multiple sports. They didn't want me to just burn out and play just soccer. So being able to play all the other sports has helped me so much. And just being a competitor, I wanted to win everything. And having trained so much that I was able to play like an important role, and for like the varsity was what made me fall in love with it more. Because if I had played freshman, then maybe I would have stopped. But because I was able to start as a point guard and play for soccer as a forward and midfielder, that like right away I was able to stay with it. And that it was just like I was in the most important parts of the game. So I think that's like the coolest part about doing the 3.
That's pretty awesome. So I'm going to switch to basketball for a little bit, because I know people are going to be saying, oh, man, this is all about soccer. And I know before we get started, I told you that I wanted you to kind of lead the interview, and I asked you what you wanted to talk about. And soccer is your main sport, and I respect that. But I do want to talk a little bit about basketball. So I wanted you to talk to me a little bit about, your team and what your
I love
basketball
my
career has
team.
been like at Eastern.
This year was by far the best year again. For the past 3 years, I was kind of deciding whether or not I would keep playing basketball. And then this year, there was no drama. Everyone loved each other. And I had 3 hot head coaches and 4 assistant coaches throughout my 4 years at Eastern. So it was always difficult going from different playing styles and under different people, and like just the chemistry between player and coach. But this year, we were able to find like the style for us. And our bench was by far the best bench in New Jersey, and I'll stick by that statement. But
Wait, I'll go back for a second.
I
So how
had
many
3 head coaches and 4
have you
assistant
had?
coaches.
So your
Yes,
most current head coach is Coach P. I'll tell you what, man,
I did
she's
too.
phenomenal. I really enjoy her. Um, Actually, when Eastern played Cherokee and we were at your gym, I made it a point after the game to wait around, and I actually personally went over and I congratulated her on a great game. I thought you did a fantastic job. She's just a phenomenal person, just a really kind person. The thing I respect about the most about her is she truly, really roots for everybody. And she's very supportive of basketball in South Jersey in general. And your
Mhm.
bench. Now I want to bring this up now because you said it. So I remember Eastern playing Cherokee, and it was a very highly touted game. Cherokee had just gotten off playing against St. Rose and beating St. Rose, so they were on a pretty good streak. And I remember coming over to Eastern, and you guys really just played an amazing game. I have to say, it was an amazing game. I think for the most part, your team was leading for most of the game, and Cherokee didn't come back until the very
Mhm.
last, three,
Oh,
4 minutes of the game.
absolutely. We had prepared a
Do you
lot,
remember
and
that
I was
game?
absolutely exhausted after and
I'll, t-
during. But my bench.
I'll tell you, they had you running. That was amazing. I was wondering how you were running back and forth the whole game. I mean, you had the energy of like the
Yes,
Energizer Bunny, and I'm like, does
all
this
the
kid ever
time.
get tired? So tell me about this bench because I witnessed it firsthand. So I talked to you about this before we got started with the interview officially. That when we played that game, the whole first half, anytime Cherokee brought the ball down, you guys were so loud. The coaches couldn't hear couldn't instruct the players couldn't hear the coaches. The parents were so loud. You guys
Yeah,
were so loud. It was
that
like
was only
deafening
like
in
one of
there.
the small points of how loud we were and like why we were being loud. But our bench, I don't know what changed this year that made it, but the people on the bench were insane. And I remember because I was playing defense on the point guard and we run all over the place and then having to read, I was exhausted. But then when they would bring the ball down, I would hear my bench and they would just lift me up and then I would keep going and keep going. And then unfortunately we lost at the end, but it was by far one of our greatest games because you guys crush us every year.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch. Like I said, I think the chemistry of your team, the energy of the bench, the leadership of your coach, it played a really big factor this year. And I think Eastern was really a top team in South Jersey. I think underrated. They were really, really fantastic this year. I really enjoyed watching you guys and following you this season. So that's just phenomenal. Let's talk a little bit more about basketball. Let's talk about when you
We
scored
found it
your
very
thousandth
ironic
points.
that I
Can you
scored
tell
my
us about
1,000th
that?
point on a 3-pointer because I'm not the best shooter, like I said. But I got it when I was playing Morristown Friends. It was obviously getting over that little bump is always like hard and everyone's thinking about it. I wasn't trying to focus on it and I was obviously still passing a lot. So it came pretty much on a buzzer beater, but like with like zero point 0.8 seconds left in the first quarter, I hit a three from an inbounds play.
That's pretty awesome. Did you know
I
it was going to be
knew,
your thousandth
but
point,
I
or
wasn't
you
really
didn't
too
know at the
worried
time?
about it. I knew it would come eventually because of how close it was. So it wasn't like my main priority. But then when I got tackled, I was kind of like, oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
I
pretty
forget who
awesome.
grabbed me
Did
first,
everybody
but
celebrate
someone
with you?
came running over and jumped on me, and then everyone else was just kind of shoving me. And they're all excited, which made it awesome because of how supportive my team is.
So, what was your favorite, or what was your most memorable experience in
Well,
basketball?
I think
Maybe
this year
this year,
and
and
my
then we'll talk
career
about your
was the
career.
same moment. Like I said, like we obviously our record doesn't speak for itself because we lost like most of our losses were by like just a few points to really high teams. So we were put in our first playoff position to have a home game, which we hadn't done in 10 years, and we hadn't made my sophomore year. We hadn't even made playoffs, I believe, and then junior year and freshman year we lost first round. So this year we were kind of like, all right, we got this, and then we started off and the other team was doing a lot better than we were. We didn't have too much energy. We weren't doing well. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, Kelly, you got to step it up if you want to win. And I did. I felt like I did. So I'm proud of that. But then at the very end, we had tied it up or we were down by two and the girl had the ball and I stole it. But then they called it a foul and they made both their free throws. And then we called a timeout. So now we were down by one, whatever the score would add up. We were down by one now. And there was 12 seconds left and we called a timeout. And they're originally going to give the ball to our post player, but she didn't really want the ball because of the pressure. And I absolutely wanted the ball. So they and I ran down the court and I Euro stepped through 4 players and I sunk the little floater, and then they called a timeout with 4 seconds left. And in that moment, I thought I had saved the game again and being able to move on. And because it was a doubleheader, because a boys player had broken the backboard in the other gym, there was a crowd we're not used to. So the whole crowd went crazy, and it was by far the best experience. But then, unfortunately, they added 2 seconds to the clock, and they went out and scored a layup and won.
Wow. I guess, at that point, you win some and you lose some, but I
Yeah,
mean, at least it
that
was
was
an
definitely
exciting
my
way to end
best
your
and
career.
favorite game.
Now, what went through your mind when, you were done the game? I mean, knowing that it was your
Well,
last basketball game
originally,
that you were going to play.
before this year, I was kind of content and okay with being done basketball because my passion for it had kind of faded. But I figured I would stick around for my senior year, and I'd already sticking around so long. But then this year, I fell back in love with the game because of my team, and I was mad at them for it because I was fine with walking away, but now I didn't want to. But realizing that we had lost, when I went into the locker room, it was kind of shock. For soccer, I was able to hold in my emotions until I was away from the other team so they wouldn't see me upset. But for basketball, I was kind of just in shock. I was sitting there, I'm like, wow, I'm done. Because I've been playing since I was little, and to be done after all those years, knowing soccer, I'll be able to continue, but being done basketball and ending in that way in our gym was hard.
Well, how does it feel knowing that you're not going to play another lacrosse game now? You never even got a chance to start the season or end the season or have the last game.
It definitely stunk a lot because
how do you feel about that?
With lacrosse, it was kind of going to be my decider if I was going to do it in college or not. So now I have to wait and see if I'm okay to do it in college because I may or may not. So it might not be my last one, but it was definitely my last high school. But when I go back, my technical last high school game, I was proud of. It was our state championship game, and I thought I did pretty well. But for this season, I was excited because senior day and being a senior in the lacrosse team is awesome because of all the stuff we do. And I've been excited for it since freshman year for my senior year of lacrosse. But unfortunately, I didn't get that. And I had been really sick towards the end of basketball and then the start of lacrosse, but I had to get the practices in. So I missed my last day of school and my last practice ever because I was homesick, and I regret it. Yeah.
Wow, that's a shame. Well, how does it feel being a senior, dealing with this whole coronavirus thing where everything's basically getting canceled? Now, did you have a senior trip or that got canceled?
Well, pretty much it's going to be canceled.
Okay.
It's
Prom?
June 10th, and they haven't said anything, but it's going to be canceled. Oh, yeah, tons of stuff. Let's see.
What else got canceled? Anything
so they
else?
canceled senior trip. Prom got rescheduled, but it's probably going to be canceled. Our banquets, our senior banquets, have been canceled. Just the little stuff with being a senior, it wasn't supposed to, I feel like my grade and my class deserved a really good year. And that was probably the hardest part about being a senior this year was for soccer. It was by far my best year, and it ended in a horrible way. Basketball was my best year, and it ended in a horrible way. And then lacrosse, I got a taste of how awesome the year was going to be, and then I didn't get to experience. So, and then even with the littlest thing of being in pottery, I've been working hard on these mugs, and I never got to finish them, and I'll never get to. And little stuff like that just adds up. That's being a senior.
Well, I noticed that, Coach P made it a point to come over and deliver you a special ball.
My dad had tricked me because he had apparently known, but I thought that she was coming over to just give me my varsity letter. So when she gave me the ball, I thought it was awesome. It was really well done and drawn and painted. And I have it. I'm looking at it right now. It's in my room. But I thought it was so cool and really thoughtful that someone put in the time to do that for me. And they made me redo the video, so that's why I'm not a very good actor, but the original one, I was very excited by it, and it was very nice.
So did they custom make that ball for you?
They took a ball, and
what
then
happened?
I forget who she said had it done, but someone painted it for me, And then she was, yeah, and really well done.
So that was hand painted.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. That's really awesome. So, it seemed like you had a pretty busy high school career, and here you are, you're a high school student, and now you have to decide what ultimately made you
For the
decide and
longest
choose
time,
to
I
play
actually wasn't
soccer
sure if
in
I was going to
college.
do soccer or basketball, mostly because lacrosse wasn't in the question yet, and travel basketball was amazing. But then when I started high school, um, with soccer, I fell in love with it just so much more, and I think that goes to like just the competitiveness. Because at VMS we were winning by a lot for every game because the competition wasn't as well. But then getting into high school and the physicality and the skill level and playing in the best conference against all these amazing teams, I wanted to become the like best I could be, and I wanted to pursue. And then when basketball came, like I said, I didn't enjoy it as much. And then lacrosse, obviously, I wasn't doing too well until the end. And it wasn't my passion. It was just something that I was competitive with. But then as the years went on, the same thing with soccer. I just kept falling more and more in love with it and wanting to improve. And then lacrosse, being a goalie, I really enjoyed it, which is why I might be doing it in college.
Now, have you thought about, what you want to
Oh,
try and
yeah.
do and
My parents
accomplish and
already know
achieve at
my
the next level
impossibly
in
high
college with
standards for
soccer?
myself. Um, well, for academic
So what do
wise,
you what do you want to do?
I want to aim for a 4.0. Will that happen? I have no clue, but that's what I want. And then for soccer, I want to be in the record books. I want to take my team to an A10 comp or championship. I want to see us win the national one. Like, just because we're a small D1 school doesn't mean our team can't accomplish the big ones. And I want to help my team do that.
That's pretty awesome. I think it's great to have goals and dreams to aspire towards. Whether you accomplish all that or not, I mean, it's important that you're working towards something, and it gives you motivation and it gives you drive. And I think
Thank you.
you're quite capable of doing it. I wish you the best of luck with that for sure. So let's talk about LaSalle.
My early junior year,
So you
yeah.
committed to LaSalle. Did you commit in your junior year? So what made you pick that school over all the schools that were
First off, the
I guess
coach,
that wanted
he
you? What made you
was
pick
big on
LaSalle?
making me a better person and a better player. So that was a philosophy that I really like because I feel like you should care about your players as people more than as puzzles to your giant puzzle or puzzle pieces to your giant puzzle. And then I liked how just like the little things again that like the team they were all standing up and cheering for each other the whole game even if they didn't get in. That's what they were doing, and the fight that they all put in during the games and how close they were off the field and like what their preachers were. And that was something that I wanted to do. I wanted it to be like my job. I wanted to become the best that I could be there. And I believe that Coach Royal will do that along with the assistant coaches. And I know my teammates are getting ready to push me as hard as they can. So I'm excited for it.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, did it ever factor into your decision that LaSalle is only over the bridge and that your parents will be able to see a
Not
lot of your
really.
games? Did you ever think about that in the back of your
I
mind when
didn't
you
want
made
to
your
go
decision?
super close that they would be knocking on my door every day, but I also didn't want to be far. And I think where it is pretty great. I wasn't exactly sure how far the drive was the first few times we went because I always nap in the car. But when I found out that it was as close as it was like a perfect location for me.
Yeah, I think the thing about like LaSalle
Mm-hmm.
is there's no like fast way to get there. You know what I mean? Because it's right up Broad Street. There's no highway or anything to get to it. So you get stuck in some traffic, but it is a pretty cool location. The fact that it's like right outside the city. You could probably come home anytime you needed to if you really needed anything, or if you missed your family or you had family events. But again, you're there. You'll have your college experience, which is fantastic. So that's great. Now, what are you going to study in college? What are you looking to do? You talked about trying
My
to
major is
earn
going to
a
be
4.0, but
communications.
what are
I'm going
you
to
what are you going to
see
study?
how far I'll go in video editing. Um, I know a lot of people have like their set job occupation, but I really haven't had that. But one thing that I really like doing, like my TV media teacher, he inspired me and I really liked his class. So I enjoy making highlight reels and videos, and then I like editing a lot. So it would be more so for the editing aspect in college, but that's what I'm looking to do. And then the overall goal for like my occupation would be like this one girl that came out of Eastern from his class. He said that she was as like the producer kind of making the highlight reels for like the hype video before two like between two games, like the Yankees and the Phillies, and then it was kind of like a hype video to get people interested, and that would be something that I would look to do.
That's pretty cool. So how are you? I mean, how are you going to juggle all this? The college demands from the team, your classwork, the high
Well, I'm
standards
going
you
to
set
have
and goals
people
you set
around
for
me that
yourself.
are
How
going
are
to
you going to be
support me
able
and
to
help me
do that?
through it. That's the biggest thing. And the fact that I've done it for several years now, obviously it's going to be more pressure, but it's something I don't think I can handle, especially with the girls that I've already had them come over my house. We could get to know each other going in. So I just believe that like all the people that are going to be around me, everyone, like my coaches, my family, my future friends and friends now, they all want the best for each other. And I just think being in that atmosphere all the time is going to really help me through like all the downs and the troubles.
That's pretty awesome. So I'm going to ask you. We're getting close to the end of the interview, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions. The first thing I want to ask you is, as a young lady, as a young leader, what kind of words of advice or encouragement would you, give to girls who aspire to play at the next level in college? Like, what would you tell them? What did you learn, or what did you like? What do you find that would be helpful to
Pretty
them,
much
and what
I
did
would
you
say two
maybe didn't know that
things.
you wish you knew?
First, understand what you want. Like I want to go as far in soccer as I can. Like my goal is to play pro, but my dreams are to play in the Olympics. Like stuff like that. Like I want to be the best I can be. So that's why I want to go D1, where they're motivating you and pushing you and you're constantly working to be better. Where some people just want to go for the love of the sport, and then um, when they're done college, just go for their job, like their occupation. So if that's something you want, like just understand what level you want to play at, because they are very different. And then I would also probably say that your college that's in your head is probably not going to be perfect. But then when you find the college that you want to go to, it will be perfect to you. Like I didn't necessarily want to be in a city, but here I am going to like a city school. But LaSalle to me is going to be perfect, and I know, or it is perfect, and I know it's going to be. But it wasn't originally what I had thought of. So I would say keep an open mind and understand what you want.
That's pretty cool. Now, I have maybe one more thing to ask you, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. Um, typically for the seniors, I've been asking them, and you can think about this for a second, to thank maybe coaches, teammates, parents, people, because, we don't get to where we are in life by ourselves. We have people that mentor us, that teach us, that show us, that help us along the way and kind of show us the ropes and help set us up for success. So, do you have any
The
people that you'd
list
like
would
to
be
thank
so
or
long to
mention
name.
as we get to
So
the
I'd
end of
have to
this
like
interview?
generalize like all my coaches. Like obviously they've just helped me in their own ways with their like different styles and techniques and just their lessons. Each will obviously help me in its own way. So I thank them for that. Um, a big thanks to my dad, who's probably been my biggest supporter through all this, and teacher and mentor. So I appreciate everything he's done for me, and everything he's done, said, everything I've taken in, and I've wanted to be just like him because of how great of a person he is. My mom, because of how she's always supportive and she's trying to leave work early and getting in trouble for me so she can make my games, and all the effort she does behind the scenes at home, helping me with work when I'm up late because I had a late game, just the little things that she does. My brother for always being a supporter and wanting to be a ball boy when he can. And then my grandparents, they're my number one fans. All my teachers for helping me. They've all taught me something in one way or another. And then even the future people that are going to be coaching me and my future teammates and then my teammates now. Everyone in life has just taught me a lesson, and I will always remember it and try to use it to the best of my ability to live life as best I can, pretty much. So I pretty much just thank everyone.
Wow. Wow, that's just fantastic. I like how you're very diplomatic about it, because I think, when thanking people, when you go back, you don't want to forget anybody. So, I know that you work hard, but people have helped you along the way, and I just think it's phenomenal. I just love the relationship and the respect that you have for your family. I love the fact that you respect your dad, and you've taken on his coaching, and you've realized that he's actually helped you along the way. And even though dad sometimes we're pushy, and we kind of push our way, you kind of just follow along. And I think you're going to be doing some great things in the future, and I can't wait to follow up, and watch you and follow you in your career. So I just want to say thank you to you, for taking the time to talk to me, and to let me interview you, and for sharing some of your thoughts and experiences. And I just can't wait. I'm so excited now. I just can't wait. This is
Thank you,
just
and thank
fantastic.
you
So I wish
again
you the
for
best of luck,
asking me
and
to
I wish you
do this
success going
interview.
forward.
Thank you, too.